And we are live once again, the Young Lion podcast. Tonight we're going to talk about a lot of fun topics, some R. Kelly drama. We're going to talk about some Jussie Smollett drama. We're going to talk about what it means to be a half black, half Indian with a Spanish last name growing up in America. Yeah, so keep on watching. It's going to be a fun one. You're watching Young Lion TV.
Yeah.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they dying. Everywhere I look, they dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they dying. Everywhere I look, they dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding.
Yeah, we're here at True Sound Studios, Camden, New Jersey, with the Young Lion podcast on Young Lion TV. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We're gonna have some good conversations tonight, man. Yeah. I got a special guest in the building. Of course, we got Jake and Moan here, and we got Carter and Rachel doing the production thing. This is episode 2, so we're trying to make sure that the bugs are worked out. Hopefully, the live stream works a lot better this week than it did last week. But thanks for everybody who watched it. I want to introduce everybody to our guest. Tonight, we got my brother-in-law, Mr. James Garcia. He is a half black, half Indian with a Spanish last name.
Rare combination.
Tell us how that happens.
Well, man, it's that's Trinidad. Trinidad is a unique place in the Caribbean where, not completely, but Trinidad is the last island in the Caribbean, and it has very multi-ethnic background. I would say there's about probably 40 to 50% Indian, black, and Spanish, indigenous people. A lot of mixtures there
because it was settled by the Spanish first.
Yeah,
right?
settled by the Spanish first, and then
how did Indian from India?
Right. Well, after slavery was abolished, the British came up with a sort of a way to continue slavery, and it was called indentured servants. Right. So they went over to Southeast Asia, and they pretty much brought Indians and some Asians and from these other countries, and they brought them to kind of work off. It was like a 6-year term, between 6 to 4 years or whatever. Work off your indentured servitude, and then you go back to India. But they never took them back.
How did that work? That's what I was going to say. How did that work out?
Many of them stayed. So imagine, at that time, I think a lot of them came between the age of 13 to about 26.
Right.
To work the sugarcane plantation. Trinidad was known for that.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that was like the number one export at the time, right?
Yeah, the number one export. I mean, sugar was huge, In today's world, that doesn't, how could that be a thing?
Right. Back then, sugar was, everyone wanted sugar.
Right. So they were brought over to kind of work the lands and cultivate these crops to send to Europe.
Right.
And my ancestors from the Indian side were brought in to do that job, and they kind of stayed there. Well, they were left there. And this dichotomy between, different racial groups started to grow. While America was experiencing something completely different,
right.
Trinidad was going through something that was unique in the Caribbean, where you had complete different cultures. Because the Indians, though they were indentured slaves or servants, their culture was still intact.
Right.
They still had, their language, their food, their religion. They still kept those things compared to the African slaves that didn't have any of that. They were pretty much adopted,
So you grew up like experiencing Hinduism, and Christianity and Islam all at the same time.
Right. It was the Indian side of my family had pretty much converted to Christianity, but there was still semblance of it, meaning the music, the food, it was still there. Though we didn't practice it, it was still there, and I saw it. And some of them continued to practice.
To practice, right. But you grew up with like the Bollywood movies and all that stuff.
I grew up with the Bollywood movies,
yeah.
And I grew up watching that. My sisters and I, we were these, back in the 80s, there weren't a lot of, there were, but not a lot. It's not as how it is now, where there weren't a lot of mixed race kids.
Right.
And we were kind of like the first in our family. myself and one of my other cousins, we were the first in our family to
I think me and Jake kind of feel you on that.
So how was that like? Being the first mix. How did
we didn't
the
know
family?
You know what the thing about being biracial, right? First of all, we have to like kind of look at this thing. Like when you say biracial, especially in America, no one has any idea that exists outside of white and black.
Right.
Right.
When you say biracial
means
right, because they're
here.
looking at my skin tone,
right,
and they're like, "Wait,
that's a black guy.
You're a black guy.
Yeah.
There's no. Why are you trying to tell me about this
right.
thing?"
But even Indian people look at you like that, right?
Oh, well, yeah, because that's not even a thing to
right.
Indians from India. We're not even considered to be,
You're not one of them,
no,
right?
No, not at all. So if you say that to somebody, okay,
right,
that's kind of like useless information,
right?
So
it's kind of like us with the whites. They're like, no, you're not. You're not.
So when you try to explain to people that, hey, I mean, I think what I got a lot was Dominican. I had before I went bald, I had this curly straight hair. So
when you came to
when I came to America, right?
Wish you had some pictures.
And how old were you when you came here?
I was 14.
14 years old, coming to a whole new culture.
A whole new culture.
At the prime of like your pubescent years.
Yeah, man. I think, you know what it was? It was, when you're 14, you're already pretty much, you're developed already. I mean, yes, there's still more development to do, but your personality is already there.
Right.
So when I came here, it was complete culture shock. And not only that, but I went probably about 70, 80 years into the future.
Right.
Because Trinidad, where I'm from, was a village.
Oh, I've seen it.
You were brave.
You went there last year.
Yeah,
you surprised me.
No, I think it was 2 years ago. Yeah, yeah. We went to got to see the village where they grew up.
Yeah.
And man, that was crazy. Like, because you hear the stories. I've heard the stories for so many years, but to like actually go there and spend time there and see it and experience it, it was like, man, people actually live like this still.
Yeah, right. Man. And he saw an updated version of
right.
that.
Right.
So I mean, it was crazy. Pitch black. There's such, for me, there was such beauty in the simplicity of what that is or what that was.
There is something to be said about that, about how a simple life has its beauty as well. Like we always strive for like all of the comforts and technology and all of the advancements and everything, and it's like there's something to be said about that lifestyle where it's like you only have to worry about your family, what's going on in your surroundings. You can live off the land. Like, man, when we were there, they're hunting for their food. They're eating the vegetables right from the yard, and it's a totally different life, man. But that's how they live.
Right.
I mean, they're also burning trash in the front yard. That's
right.
That's another story.
Can't get it all.
You can't have it all.
But no, you definitely lose that. You lose in our society.
Right.
You lose that whole thing.
Yeah.
I think so. I think maybe coming here, having to adjust and seeing the difference between having it and not having it.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, I was told Jamie this. I can wait to get to America to try cornflakes because of marketing.
Propaganda, baby.
It looked
at
so
its
good.
Best, yeah.
It looked amazing. I was like, this thing has to be the most. I tried it and I was like, this is it. Because
that's always out.
Because what the commercial does, it makes you want this
cornflakes and bologna and hot dogs. Like they thought that was going to be the most amazing thing.
Terrible.
Exactly. And why is it? It's marketing. We while we were down there, we met this guy who we grew up with, and he was 98 years old, and he was probably the most interesting character.
Man, Paul Navarro.
Yeah,
he was so interesting just to see a man of that age who's living on his own, still like living off the land, still in good shape, he looks young, like
98
years old, man,
and healthy, still working the land.
Yeah, telling us stories. He was boxing. He was showing us his punching power.
Yeah.
There's James.
That's a young James Garcia.
That's a young James Garcia back in the day.
6-pack, 8-pack abs.
Yeah, with my cousin
curly hair.
Yeah.
You do look Dominican though.
Yeah, hey, listen, and Garcia doesn't help.
Right. But the Dominicans won't claim you either.
No.
You're a man without a tribe.
Yeah.
Welcome to our world.
That's right.
But so talk about that. So like you grow up in an extremely different culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a weird dynamic with the racial tension between blacks and Indians. So talk about that a little bit and how you experienced that growing up as a kid.
Well, for me, I would say, let me start by saying you don't know that you're mixed until somebody points that out to you.
Right.
Your mom and your dad is your mom and your dad.
Right.
You have no idea, there's any difference
Right.
until you start seeing it. And then the first people you notice it from is the people that are around you, your family. Maybe they make a certain joke, and the joke is, it catches you off guard. You know
Right.
it's not supposed to be said, but it might be a joke about a black person. It might be a joke about an Indian person. And you hear it, and it feels awkward. But as a kid, you can't really
You don't
ask.
rationalize that.
You don't know. But then it starts becoming more obvious that it is a thing. Because I saw it on the black side. I saw that side of the family make fun of the Indian side, and I saw the Indian make fun of the black side, and it was like, this is really weird. And then my dad and my mom, we moved to a predominantly black neighborhood where it was obvious that they didn't like what was happening. And I was telling Jamie this, the first bully experience I had was with those kids in that neighborhood, because I didn't look like them. Here I'm a black guy, and I accept that. But in Trinidad, I was
A coolie.
and a coolie is a derogatory word,
Right.
And that's because I looked predominantly Indian. I had straight hair, and I looked more like my mother at that time. So, it's, naturally, and I
You look
became
like
that.
me in the Young Lion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I went through my stages: Indian, Dominican, black.
But they used to sing a song. What was the song they used to sing?
Which one?
Something about roti.
Oh yeah. It was. They would make fun of my sisters and I for eating roti. Is a Trinidadian dish, and they would say the song was "Coolie Coolie come for roti, all the roti done." And it was
So weird.
it was a weird thing, It was like what?
That's
is
how
this?
they teased you, though. It's like
That's how they teased
But what's funny is like, because you say it as an older person now looking back and
Right.
realizing what that is,
Right.
Because all of the little black kids wanted roti.
Yeah, they wanted it.
They loved it, but
made
they
fun
were
of us.
jealous
Yeah.
because you got it all the time.
Right.
So their way of dealing with that is to tease you about it,
Teasing
right?
about it, right. And then finding out when I came here when I came here, finding out that was a thing, like with Jamaicans call Indians coolie red. It's like it's not even they just
It's
say
not.
it.
It's just
Yeah,
how
they'll-
you describe them.
Right, they'll say it to me. Like if we say, "Hey, where are you from?" I'll say, "I'm from Trinidad," and they'll say, "Oh, you're half coolie."
Yeah.
It wouldn't even be a thing. It's not even offensive to them,
Right.
Because they don't look at it that way. Some people, what's offensive to somebody might.
But even in
Right.
Trinidad, there's a special term for a half black, half Indian, which is what?
It's a word. I think it has French origins, but the word is called a dogla. A dogla is a term. It's sort of like mulatto.
Right,
Mulatto means little mule,
Which is offensive now.
which is offensive now.
Right,
But that's what it meant.
they used to
That's
call
what it meant.
people like me and Jake.
Yep,
You know,
you're a
even
mulatto.
though
Yeah.
we're more than just black and white, but they see you and they say, "Oh, you're a mulatto."
You're mulatto. Yeah, exactly. And I never got that. I never understood why. I was as a kid. I didn't understand what side am I on.
Yeah.
But here, when I came here, I was
You're immediately on the black
I
side.
had no choice. You know what I mean? Because
There is no discussion about
Indians from India who are from India, and when I tell them that's
it. Right. They don't identify with you
No,
at all.
not at
It
all.
doesn't matter. You can say my mother was Indian,
Right.
but they don't
Nope.
care.
Nope, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's weird. I mean, I know that people in this country don't get to hear that side of things.
Right.
But you have like specific history with that with your family because
Right.
the way your grandmother and your mom did,
Right.
So speak on that a little bit.
Well, I think what I realize is that there are different types of prejudice and racism. There's some that's attached monetarily, and then
Right.
there's classism, and then there's just people who are just ignorant.
Right.
They have no idea what they're talking about. It's just they heard that and they accept that as what it is. But what we were experiencing was a form of classism. The British did a great job at creating different groups of people,
Right.
the haves and the have-not. Of course, they're at the top, and then under them are the biracial kids that they have with maybe the indigenous women or the slaves or the Indians, and then under them are the people who they pick to rule over the field people. And I did notice that basically it was my grandmother on my black side did not like that her son, my dad, married an Indian woman, because to her that was of the lower class.
Right. So
they-
blacks believe they were a
Right.
superior class to the Indians.
Right, especially blacks that owned land, because
Right.
they were products of the sort of what happened here in the United States, which was sharecropping.
Right.
So the sharecropper blacks who were sort of mixed a little bit felt well, we're better than these indentured, you know. So off of that came this thing that I didn't understand, which was the situation between my mother and my grandmother and then my dad's brother.
Right.
Who throughout our life it played out and it never got better. It continuously got worse.
Right.
So basically we never had a relationship with them. It was like almost like forced. You know. Yes, we knew. Yes, there were times when we would interact with them. Excuse me. But for the most part, it was uncomfortable. Where that's your uncle, but you're afraid of him. You're afraid of your uncle because you don't know how he's going to react.
And plus, he directly treats you different than the other cousins you have that are full black. Right.
Right. You saw the difference in how they treated the other ones. Now, my two cousins lived here. They had already left Trinidad and lived here. So, but when they would come back, we would notice it. But they were so far apart. I think they were 13 years apart from us. So it wasn't a direct thing that we saw every day. We just noticed how they treated us, and it was between my sisters and I. I'm the only boy. There's 3 girls. I naturally was more outgoing than them, so they were shy and reclusive. So they got it worse than me because I made an effort, and my sisters didn't. You know what I mean?
Because you're more outgoing.
Naturally, I'm more sure, and I didn't want to be like my sisters. I wanted whatever was available to me. I would run to that. You know,
and that would get you in trouble too.
That would get me in a lot of trouble. Yeah. So I mean, to notice it and then not understand it, try to make sense of it, and then getting frustrated at it and saying, you know what, I can't.
So it seems like there's this dichotomy of like people trying to find identity in something. And that's funny because that's kind of transcendent in terms of anywhere you live in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure this story is not unique. I'm sure that everybody can relate to something not being accepted. But for me, it was I genuinely wanted to be a part of something, but I didn't know. And then I moved at 14, so now I'm completely transplanted from one culture to another culture, and I get here, and I don't.
That's crazy.
And it's a culture where, like, if you're black, you're expected to be a specific thing, right?
Yeah.
Tim's.
Right. No, like just like everything. Like you're supposed to know the culture. You're supposed to like be a part of it and totally bought in.
And if you don't, you're not
accepted. So then so then you have to deal with that.
I have to deal with that. Yeah.
In the adolescent year.
Right.
And like just being thrown into high school here.
Right.
Into a totally different educational system.
Right. Yeah.
Which talk about, because you bring that up sometimes about like, you know, because people talk about school districts a lot, and you said, and you always reference the fact that you came from a primitive place.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, here people have these ideas of maybe success or what they perceive as good or bad. And for me, I realized when I got here, I remember them testing me. I came here, like I said, I was 14, and they immediately said, you have to go back to the 7th grade. They immediately said that without any, you know, we didn't bring any paperwork from Trinidad. I don't think it would count anyway, but they basically said, no, he has to go back to 7th grade. Well, my parents said, well, why don't you guys test him and see what's his capability? I mean, rather than come to that extreme.
Right.
And they did, and I went to the 9th grade. I'd been 14 years old in 7th grade. And I graduated on time. I graduated in 1999.
Right.
I was 18. I was never held back or anything like that. And I always say this to Jamie. I hear people saying this all the time. Oh, we got to get in a good school district. It matters. The education matters. And I think it does. But I think it's also the values that you learn at home. Our parents told us to work hard, study, don't waste your time doing nonsense.
Right.
And my sisters and I, 4 of us, graduated all on time. Nobody was left back. Nobody struggled. I can speak for myself, not my sisters. I wasn't an exceptional student per se, but I did do the work necessary. I wish I had applied myself more, but I was saying to Jamie, I don't think it matters so much the school districts as it is the upbringing you have, that desire to want to do better.
Well, because the fact is that you guys came from a place that's supposed to be, you know, extremely poor.
How could we keep up?
Low level learning, but you went into one of the hardest school districts in
Voorhees,
South Jersey, in Voorhees, and were able to keep up.
That's a point I want to say is, I feel like that to me proves my point, which is we came into one of the hardest districts, and we were able to graduate on time. We were able to succeed, and it's because of that desire.
Family,
the family structure.
You have a father,
Right.
I mean, stats prove it.
Right.
That
Yeah.
children that
Yeah, exactly. That's a
children
good
that
point.
has their
Both
father,
parents.
both
Yeah.
parents,
Right.
the mother and
Yeah.
the father.
Yeah, and it's also that thing. I don't want to let them down.
Right.
There was no option for me. It was like,
They sacrifice so much to
For
make
us, yeah.
for you guys, and
Right.
and your mom was such a hustler, and the fact that you guys were able to come here and establish, buy a house in Voorhees, like,
yeah,
and then you hear. That's why for you, like, I love talking to you about this stuff because you have such a unique perspective on victimhood.
Right,
You know what I
right,
mean? And
exactly.
coming from a place of not having anything,
Right.
like you guys didn't even have, electricity, running water,
yeah,
barely. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
and let me quantify it by saying this: my dad at 50 years old was making $8 an hour
right,
in the United States. My mom was making $6 an hour.
Right.
They had no work history.
Right.
There was no college degree, no high school, no nothing.
Right.
They were educated in terms of Trinidad, but that doesn't count. I think people don't understand when you come over to the United States, especially from those type of countries, like almost like third world type. Trinidad's not third world, but nonetheless, nothing counts from there. Your education doesn't count. You're almost like starting from scratch.
Right.
And within 3 years, they were able to buy a home, and they were able to succeed.
Right.
But that also comes into what we talked about a few weeks ago, which is there was no frivolous spending. We didn't have those luxury. We focused on what needed to get done.
Right.
You know what I mean? I couldn't go to my mom and said, "Mom, I need a pair of Timbs
Yeah.
for $140."
Your mom was backsliding.
She would say, "Well, what kind of job are you doing that you need that?" So I was happy to, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that.
Plus, you didn't have the brainwashing that made you want those things
Right,
anyway.
right.
So you were showing up to school with your tucked in shirt and you have your Doc Martens on.
We had uniforms in Trinidad.
Right.
You were happy with cornflakes.
I was.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, that's it. No,
he
he
was-
was cornflakes. I was done. I was
He
like,
was
this is
happy.
it, man, this is
Look,
gross.
he told me one time that he was just happy to have more than one pair of shoes because he used to go to school with no shoes on.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I remember one time my older sister and I, it was during the rainy season. Trinidad has 2 seasons, dry and wet, and we were racing our shoes in a little ravine, and the shoes got trapped.
This is fun.
This is exciting.
Yeah.
No arcades.
Yeah.
And my shoes got lost, and because we did that, my mom made me go to school for like a week with no shoes to prove to tell me, hey, don't ever do this again. And guess what? I
They're
never
expensive, right?
did. You know,
You didn't use your
no
shoes
flotation
as
devices.
sailboats.
But then, so your dad, like, he's such a skilled guy, and it's kind of like you and us have this in common too, where it's like
Right.
you are now in the trade that your dad was doing, right?
Right.
A little bit different situation because my dad kind of like he kind of brought us into it. You got into it on your own,
Yeah.
But your dad like
Did not, yeah.
his skill level, like his craftsmanship,
Right.
as like a master carpenter, he learned all of that
And
with the old school style, with like.
yeah.
So talk about that a little bit, like.
Well, I mean, in Trinidad, there's the trades are promoted heavily because there's not, it's not.
Yeah, there's no tech jobs.
Yeah, there's no tech jobs out there. Industrialized.
Right.
It's a small island.
Silicon
Right.
Valley.
Right.
Nope. Trinidad. I mean, it's a well-to-do island. They actually have petroleum,
Right.
and you have asphalt. So
Right.
they do well, but those jobs are very limited. My dad went into trades, and he became a master woodworker. I mean, obviously I'm biased, but this guy, the stuff he can do
Yeah.
with woodworking, he's truly an artist. But,
Right.
he saw that it's an unappreciative art, or at least in this time it is. Back maybe 20, 30 years, 40 years ago, it was more appreciated because artisanship was pretty, not now as much as he thought,
Right.
So I guess he got jaded and disappointed what it was. So he told me, he said, stay away from this. Why would you want to do this?
Right.
But I always knew that I had this passion to create and build, and the thing that gives me the most pleasure is sitting back and looking at something and saying, I did this.
Right.
I drew it up, I put it together, and that feeling is amazing to me,
So that's why you started the Mr. Build, right?
That's why I started that. At first I went to Augustine and James Fine Woodworking, and we would get a lot of calls like, hey, do you want to repair a chair?
Yeah.
I was like, no, that's not, I build custom cabinets.
Right.
And
We're building stuff by hand.
Yeah, it's okay. So I went more into the remodeling route, and then from there continued.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? Like, what is your?
Well, we do mostly remodeling, and we do built-ins. We do custom woodworking, carpentry.
Carter can pull up some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Show everybody your
Yeah.
work. He's working on it.
Pull up his logo. I wonder who did it.
Yeah.
This guy right here.
We all work together. We're family, man.
Yeah. He's been on with me.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you guys a question. You guys have sort of a similar. You guys are both biracial too.
Right.
So you guys lived your entire life here. How was that?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're considered by others as biracial, but it's really like this extreme multiracial thing going on. But yeah, I mean, our experience is kind of similar to yours because our grandfather was from Spain, but he was a racist guy, and he didn't like the fact that my mom married a black dude, so we didn't have a relationship with him. And I remember growing up in a neighborhood that was kind of multicultural, but there would be certain white families that would. I never knew I was anything
as a kid
until
you really
another
don't.
little kid called me a nigger. You know what I mean?
Or Oreo.
Yeah, or
That's what
Oreo.
the black kids would call us Oreos.
Yeah, black kids would call you Oreos, and the white kids would call you niggers.
And that's what's unique about being mixed. Is that people don't understand you get it from both sides.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
People
you don't fit anywhere.
Right. I think people naturally assume white people are going to be racist at you. Yeah. But they don't assume that your own can treat you.
Right.
And I don't know what it is, but you do. My sister's got it too.
Yeah.
You know, why is that, you know?
And what else is crazy is when mom got remarried, she's with a white guy.
Yeah.
So now we're around white, we go to Thanksgiving or Christmas and we're around white people. So that's a whole nother culture that affiliated with.
Yeah.
Right.
That it was
Really
kind of like you felt like an outsider.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you got used to it.
You
'Cause
get
you're a
used to
kid
it,
and
right.
You adjust.
You notice it. I don't think it becomes that serious until you get older.
Right.
And then you realize that it does mean something. You know, people want you to pick. People want you to pick. They want you to choose.
Yeah.
You know, and they want you to pick a side. And it's like it becomes like now more than ever in this society, people want you to choose something.
Right.
Like, are you with me or not? And
Well, I think it's this whole idea of we have to figure out what group you're in so we can know how to
You gotta be able to put you in a box.
I gotta be able to market to you, and I can't do that unless I know what you belong to.
Right, and they want you to make up your mind then and there.
Right.
It's like what side are you on, and tell me if you're with me.
Right.
Well,
I know me personally, I dealt with like identity issues and
trying to figure out where you fit in, because it's like, are you white? Are you black? Are you Puerto Rican?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was just thinking about today because I heard Wu-Tang, and that first CD where I'll I'll do this.
Yeah.
Like it was just so crazy, and I'm on the bus.
I remember those trips to school,
and so it was so bad that there were really like thuggish people on our bus, and they would make the bus driver play the music every morning, play this Wu-Tang CD every morning.
Yeah.
And I hated it.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is so horrible.
Yo, yeah.
But wait, let me just finish.
Go ahead.
Because so I hated it, and I was probably like 7th grade.
Yeah.
Right? So by the time I'm in 11th grade, I'm buying the new Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You assimilated. You're like, I gotta.
Yeah. But I just remember I did not like it was so horrible. I hated listening to it.
Right.
But eventually it started to become normalized to you, and then it started to become cool to you, and then you became a part of it. But I wanted to speak on something real quick because Junior is watching right now, and he knows kind of the story. That's our boy Junior that we grew up with.
Yeah.
You met him before, right?
Yeah.
So just talking about the difference, because he said something about you get it from both sides. I never thought of that, and this is a prime example. So like same neighborhood, Junior grew up right down the street from
Black
us.
guy.
Yeah.
Black guy. Our best friend. He's been my friend since I was like 7 years old. So, on the other side of us was the Gators. Remember the Gators that moved in? I know Junior. I know you remember the Gators. Father was schizophrenic. The mom was morbidly obese, but they were racist.
Great episode right there.
And we didn't know anything about racism until they moved in, and I literally remember because we used to play with everyone in the neighborhood, and the little kid, his name was Nick Gator. He came outside, and one of our friends, Johnny, he's another white guy, and we were like, oh, you want to play? You want to play? and he was like, I don't play with niggers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were like
Just use that word so easily.
thrown off, bro.
Wow.
So that's one example of the neighborhood. But then there was another element in the
But
neighborhood.
wait, did we care that much?
We didn't care.
Right.
We just kind of like, all right, man. Then we don't play. Be by yourself. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And he was by
Yeah,
himself.
and he had no friends.
Because all the white guys, the black
Yeah.
guys, the Spanish, they were
We
all
all
our
cool.
friends.
Right.
But then there was another element of like the older, like sort of the black crew that kind of moved in from Camden and Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that Junior kind of got sucked in by them because he used to come around. They used to come around to him and be like, "Yo, why are you hanging out with these white dudes?" You know what I mean? Because he would lump us in with,
you're
you know
white
what I
dude
mean?
too.
Yeah. And it kind of like, I remember for like a year or two, he kind of like fell off and faded out a little
didn't
bit.
know what to
Meanwhile,
do.
Jamie Afro is like this thing.
Yeah, exactly. Can't get a comb through my hair at all. So it's like, that's how you get it from both sides.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he kind of fell into that a little bit when we were
Because
kids.
he probably was meant to feel corny.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that happens, yeah.
And that's a huge problem I feel like in the black community. In
Yeah.
those communities, it's like, if you are anything other than what we deem as cool,
Right.
it's corny. But then it's like all of the things that we're being told to deem as cool are like degenerative,
Right. Right,
things. So it's like we're cultivating this culture of just like degradation because it's cool.
Right.
You know what I mean? And anything outside of that, it's not cool to be smart.
No.
Because I remember I was in all the smart classes. I was a trumpet player growing
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
and I used to get made fun of all the time. And
Right.
Dude, I stopped playing cello because I had to bring this big thing to school,
Yeah.
and people used to make fun of me all the time. So
Right.
I'm like, you know what? I'm done.
Yeah.
yeah.
Give me my cool jacket.
Yeah, Jake immediately jumped on the cool bandwagon.
He went out and got
I had-
his cool starter
Jake
kit.
was geared up.
It took me a lot of years to even care about the cool bandwagon.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
Jamie-
isn't that what we were talking about the other day? We were talking about the Dave Chappelle skit with Wayne Brady.
Yes.
When Paul Mooney said, "Hey, Wayne Brady makes Brian Gumble look like Malcolm X. White people love him." You know.
When we all laughed.
We all laughed.
It was hilarious, right?
We were in our early 20s, so we all
Yes.
laughed about that. Talking about perspective, right? So here's this thing where Wayne Brady has to be a gangster, has to have hoes and pimps and shoot people to prove that he's
black.
Yeah.
To prove that he's cool, you have to be this thing. You have to be this almost this monster. You know what I mean?
Right.
So and everybody laughed along with it. The only way
Even he played into it because he
played
played
into
the
it.
part,
He
and
played
he
the
said,
role.
He
he
played
said,
into
oh, so I make Brian Gumble look like Malcolm
Right.
X. How a motherfucker? Like, so then he-
exactly. Yeah, he was getting his cool
Yeah,
back, but
right.
you know what I mean? So
then he's smacking chicks and
Right.
where's my money? And he shot. Remember he shoots Dave Chappelle at the
Yeah.
end. And we were talking about that. Like,
and that's what I feel that people like looking back on that. Like, I'm not like that. I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be a gangster. I don't want
Right.
to curse people. I don't want hoes. I don't want none of that.
Right.
So why do I have to buy into that to be cool or to accept my black malehood?
But
You know?
you always tell me about this too, like because you dealt with that very same thing coming
Right.
from another culture, not understanding
Right.
what it meant to be cool in this country. So
Right.
like the way you dressed, the things that you cared about,
Yeah.
you
Like
were
in Hall and Oates.
right, because you like Billy Ocean.
Billy Ocean.
Right.
A little jazz, you know?
Yeah. So
yeah.
and he
Immediately.
right, he wasn't listening to R. Kelly like everybody else was.
I
And
mean,
look where that got you.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, immediately. I mean, obviously, the culture obviously influenced me. Trinidad, we were getting a lot of British, type of music and stuff like that. So we grew up, and plus everything we got in Trinidad in terms of show was probably about 10 years. We got, syndicated shows 10 years after you guys already were done with it.
Right.
So of course, when I came here, I was high on Bonanza and Westerns. And nobody was listening to that.
Yeah, right,
Nobody
right.
That's
watched
about
that.
20, 30.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, definitely. But for me, one thing happened to me was my cousin told me this. He said, when you get to America, don't change. Be yourself. He said, don't let anybody change you. Be yourself, right? And that stuck with me. And I remember that being in Trinidad when I was bullied, my cousin said, "You're gonna have to fight back, man. Even if you get your butt whipped, you fight back and let them know you're gonna put up with it. Don't change for anybody. Don't try to be like anybody." And that stuck with me, being the only boy, because again, like I said, I had this curly hair, I had straight hair, and the other boys would make fun of me. They would say, "You have girl hair."
Yeah.
I don't know that they're jealous.
Right.
I don't know that they really wanted the
They want the
curlies.
genuine curls.
I didn't know they wanted it. I just thought, dang, I have girl hair.
Right,
You know.
right.
You know. And then
And you're like, well, what am I supposed? This is how I was born.
yeah,
like,
what to do with it?
right.
You know. So and then I got here, and of course, girls like, "Oh man, you have curly hair." So now it became a thing. But I didn't play sports. I didn't listen to hip hop. I wasn't into the inner city culture because I didn't know it. I wasn't looking down on them, but I didn't understand it. So I just like what I like.
Yeah.
And I think I kind of stayed the same until I met the Venezuelans.
He said, "These people I can
These
get
people
with."
like the salsa.
Yeah.
Well, that's where your origin came from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there's some Venezuelan there too.
That's hilarious.
But I feel like I was able to, through that, by sticking to my guns, saying like, I don't want to be like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not. I never owned a pair of Timbs because at that point in time I was like, you know what? My attitude was like, fine. You think I'm corny? You think what I like is corny? I don't like what you like, and I'm not gonna dress like you. I'm not gonna look like you. I'm not gonna act like you. I did the opposite. For me, it was like, no, I'm gonna be myself.
And you're like, well, you're corny for trying to be like everybody else.
Right, exactly.
And that's
But the thing is, I knew them.
Right.
So when I met their parents, and their parents are CEOs,
Right,
and their parents
right.
are doing well, and I'm like,
we dealt with a lot of that in Williamstown.
Yep.
you're a
A
phony.
lot of phony gangsters.
Yeah, phony
and
gangsters.
like people that grew up listening to Mobb Deep and
Yeah.
want to live it out.
You're pretend.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So phony that they end up in jail.
Yeah. they
That's when it get
they went
real.
that far.
Yeah. Then they're like, oh, it got real.
I know for you, it wasn't until like, because I know even with the girls, like
Right.
the girls would treat you different because you weren't. But it wasn't until you started to come into your own with the curls and,
Right, right.
and genuine became a thing.
Right. The brown skin guys with the curly hair.
Right. So
That
then the dudes wanted to be friends with you.
Right. Well, they couldn't believe it. They were like, wait a second. This all happened to me in like 1996. I went on a bus trip with some high school kids, and some girls reacted to me, which I didn't invite. I was just there, and some girls reacted, and all the other guys who were athletes and everything like that, they were like, "What the hell?
Yeah.
Like, who? This guy doesn't rap. He doesn't catch a pass. He doesn't do nothing."
When he says reacted, you know how high school girls are.
Yeah.
Right,
So
right.
they
They're
were
a
throwing
little
themselves on the ground, like
Right, a
trying to
little
get at
extra.
this dude
Right.
because he looked like genuine.
Right, you know, and I think they saw that and they were like, "Whoa!" And then from there, certain guys that probably would have never talked to me because again, we would have not crossed paths. We're not in the same. We don't do the same thing.
Right.
And they saw that, and they started, you know. Well, and through that, of course, you know, they were like, "All right, well, let's hang out with this guy. Maybe there's some residual."
And maybe we can get the leftovers.
Yeah, you know. So you know,
Funny, those
Everybody good?
relationships.
Everybody want to be?
Relationships built on some bullshit, right?
yeah. And I quickly learned that you know what, I'm better off by myself in terms of like what I want to, what I like, what I want to be, how I think. You know, I wasn't able to articulate it though. I wasn't able to. I was a little shy on saying things, and because of this, I think one of the things I learned in America is you don't talk about race, religion, politics, and sexuality.
about all that.
You don't do that. Yeah, and here we do as men, but as a kid, you're taught don't stay away from those things. Those things you'll offend somebody. It started back then, and you never really like. You know, I heard a quote, and it said, you know, just because I disagree with your lifestyle doesn't mean I don't like you, or I disagree with your choices. You know, doesn't mean I don't like you. I don't have to hate you, but I can disagree with what you. You know, we can still be friends. I don't like what you like,
Right.
and that's okay. You don't have to like what I like.
Yeah.
I like curry chicken. People hate it. They think it stinks. You know.
I like it.
I love curry chicken.
I love curry.
Right.
Curry anything.
Yeah. Jesus said something profound. Blessed are those who are not offended
Yeah.
because of me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's because people are so quick, not just to get offended, but to look for a
Look for
reason
offense.
why to be
This is
offended.
the era of it.
You know?
This is the era.
And the
But it started.
sensitivity is crazy.
But where do you think it started though? Because it had to start. I mean, now it's so you can't say anything. People are so afraid. They almost read an attorney's letter before they talk. You know,
Right.
because they don't want to offend you. You know.
yeah, and
They just talk.
it's gotta stop.
Yeah.
Somebody, and it takes you, me, you know what I mean?
Right.
It takes
Right.
people to be like, I'm gonna say
Right.
the truth. I'm not like, and you don't do it to just go out and
Right.
try to offend people,
Yeah,
but you
yeah.
gotta stand your ground.
You got to push
speak.
back against the outrage culture because the thing is, they're pushing the bar
Right.
so far, it's like it's eventually gonna spill into everything. Like we were just talking about digital blackface now. Like Did you guys heard about that?
No.
Digital blackface.
It's a thing.
You know what that is, Carter?
Digital blackface.
No.
Rachel, you ever heard of that? Let's ask the young guy, Ian. He sleep over there.
Yeah, I don't.
He's like, I'm doing it right now.
So this is like this new phenomenon that has to do with texting. So it's like and memes and gifs and stuff like that. So it's like if you're in a text conversation with someone or any type of thing like that, and you respond with a meme or a gif of a black person laughing or something that's like stereotypical, like let's say it's like a Real Housewife or something, like being ghetto, and you use that and you're white, then that's digital blackface and now you're racist.
You know what?
Yeah, dude. This is what I'm saying.
Who cares? Like, listen.
Have you ever posted a gif thinking about that?
No.
Ever thinking about that?
No. And the thing is, you only make it something when you make it something. Like when you think about it. Like even the word nigger.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm gonna say nigger because people don't like to hear. They want the N word.
Right.
I don't. Yeah. But the problem, I see that's the problem. People get a reaction, but that is the issue.
Because the word
you give
the
power.
word so much power, right?
Just like what you were talking about when you were kids. The one kid. What was the name?
Nick Gator.
I don't want to play with you niggers.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
That word meant nothing
later
to me.
No,
on.
it meant something to me. Like I felt like there was something wrong with him saying that. Like,
but
it wasn't.
Really
it
know.
wasn't like
it
wasn't
didn't
like
hit you.
oh, that word is so offensive that I'm just devastated. It was like, yo, you're a terrible person. You know what I mean? And your family's terrible, and I don't want to play with you anyway. So you know what I mean? Like it was that type of thing. And then we started like looking at the mom like all overweight and the dad like is crazy, and he used to like walk around talking to himself, and he would paint these weird crazy paintings of like Jesus with blood coming out of his eyes, like weird stuff. And then you start saying like, yeah, this is a crazy family. You know what I mean? And so it takes on a whole another dynamic. We never let it affect us.
It takes away from that. Like, and we never, as kids, we never held anything against. Like a lot of the kids in the neighborhood, if we got into fights, or we would be friends with them later on.
Yeah.
Like Junior, if he's still on there, we got into fights.
Yeah, I don't know if he is, but yeah,
But isn't that something though? I think when you're a kid, right? You're you don't care who it is. You just want to have a good time.
Yeah.
Right? You're just playing. You're just enjoying yourself.
Just want to have fun with somebody.
But I think it's around 10, 11 when whatever is said in the house starts to penetrate and starts to make sense to them, but they don't know how to articulate it. So what he heard, his mom said he just wanted to repeat that.
Right.
And maybe he couldn't unpack that.
Right.
If you guys had said to him, why would you say something? He'd probably run away.
Right.
Because that's the extent. He just knew somebody said it in the house, and that made sense to me. Like I told you, I did not know that my mother was Indian, my dad was black, until somebody pointed that out to me. Until some say, and then I was like, wait, they are different. But that's your mother. She whoops your butt.
Right.
Your dad tells you to do something. That's it. That's all you know. So I think a lot of kids essentially repeat what they're told, and then they bring it to the public. And then when they're confronted with it, they run away because they have no idea how to deal. Oh, I heard this and I want to say it because my mom said it, or my dad said it, my uncle said it. And I've always said, well, yeah, at that time, maybe you couldn't challenge them. But as you get older, do you have to hold on to that? Challenge that.
Right.
Say, Dad, why did you think like that? Mom, why do you think like Ask them. And then you could see for yourself.
I think the problem is that at a certain age, it starts to become your identity.
Right.
And then you start saying like, okay, now I'm proud of this.
Well,
so now I need to go out and live it out. You know what I mean?
Well, the whole idea of racial supremacy is that it makes you feel better. Because if somebody told you you're better than, no matter what, you're going to hold on to that because like, well, I am better.
At least I'm not a nigger.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what it makes people feel a little, I'm better.
Yeah.
You know, I have and that's what it is.
So the root of it is insecurity.
And
then you try to get secure in some BS that really doesn't matter.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you try because you need security.
Right. And then no one has, at that age, you guys can't explore this kid's life to say, hey, listen, your mom's a drunk, your dad's doing this, or whatever it is, to really say you're taking information from it. You couldn't unpack that for him to see, oh, yeah. I remember one time having this conversation, I was telling you about this, a friend of mine who told me his dad was giving him information about why race mixing is wrong,
Right.
and why he said he was trying to explain that to me, and he forgot that he had told me before his grandfather worked in a factory, couldn't read or write. He was just a factory worker.
Right.
And I said, okay. And then when he was done, and I think naturally most black people's reaction is, oh, what? Your grandfather? They want to respond to it and be aggressive. But I listened to him. And when he was done, I said, yeah, you were taking information from a guy who couldn't read and write. And you thought he got that part right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't think first. Like, he's telling me this.
His life philosophy is genius, though.
Right, yeah, exactly. This guy couldn't read or write, but you're taking information from him. And
Right.
you are still, at 26 years old, you're still holding on to that? I said, I don't know, man. I think you need to rethink this. And then he stopped for a second. He was like, oh, I didn't say that. You know, and I think people don't challenge that. Like, when your parents or your elders say something to you, you hold on to that. And you never challenge it, because we're taught never challenge the elders. And I'm not saying do it just to be rebellious. I'm saying
They're not taught that anymore.
question them.
Why
Say,
do we do this?
Why?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't I be around those people?
I mean, you're supposed to question God. Like, why not question your
Yeah,
parents?
test it, prove it.
Yeah.
You know, say something, prove it to me. You know, I'm willing to listen to anyone who, if you can prove it. Now, through the fluff and the BS, you'll figure it out. But
Right.
prove it. Tell me why. You should be able to articulately defend your point of position, and if you can't, it's garbage.
But and that's going back to people being offended. If you can never have a real conversation with a friend, a so-called friend, like what are you building your relationship on?
Right.
Right.
You know. 'Cause
Well, isn't
then-
it people want to be with people who agree with them?
Yeah.
If we want to associate with people who agree with us, you have to like what I like, and if you don't like what I don't like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's what I have figured out. I figured out people do not like to be challenged, and they don't like
Right.
people disagreeing. If you're my friend, if you agree with me,
Right. They want to
That-
stay comfortable,
right?
and if you take
Yeah.
them
When
out of their
people
comfort
find
zone-
out that you didn't vote the way they voted, or you didn't do what they thought you would do,
Expect you to do.
how could you?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's almost like I can't believe you.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Right.
Yeah.
Why? Like, let's discuss it. I don't even want to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Why did you bring it up? You know?
Yeah, it's like you said. What was you were talking about how you were somewhere and they were doing like surveys about, or they were trying to get people to register as Democrats
Right.
or something. And the dude came up to you and just was
Yeah, he
like,
just
"I got
assumed.
one here."
Yeah. And listen, it's irrelevant who I vote for, but he just assumed that he was like, listen, he saw me, he had his clipboard, and he immediately was like, there he is.
Right.
You know, I was like,
Because he looked at you and he said 95%. That's all he said.
I said, I got
That's
this
all he
one.
said.
This is a free signature.
I can't lose.
So when I started challenging him, like, okay, and I'm not going to get into it because,
Yeah, right.
but my point is, he assumed that he had me pegged.
Right.
And when I didn't respond the way he thought I was going to respond, he was like, all right,
You're a disgrace.
Yeah.
How dare you,
right. I was like, no, man, like,
you traitor?
and I look forward to that now. I'm at the stage in life where I look forward to surprising me.
Yeah.
Because people naturally assume that they figured it out, and the audacity of some people to think that they've got this. Like,
Right.
I know what you like.
Right.
It's like, no, you don't know.
But but isn't that even more racist than anything?
Right,
It's
right.
like saying that's the epitome of it. It's like saying, well, you're black, so I know you like this,
Right,
right?
right.
Or I know you think this way,
Well,
or I
there's
know you're
certain-
going to
but-
do that.
There's certain popular prejudice, right? Everybody has them.
I
but
think it's
they-
more prejudice.
Yeah, they
than
run
racist.
with that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like the term racist in the way that they
Yeah,
use,
yeah,
that most
there's-
people
yeah,
use it,
right.
the way that they weaponize it as
Yeah.
race, everything's racist.
Everything is
But
racist.
even in doing that,
Right.
in assuming that because you're black, you're supposed to vote a certain way, you're supposed to think a certain
Right.
thing,
You're supposed to
like
like a
that.
certain
You're
thing, yeah.
engaging in that same practice,
Right. Right.
which
Well-
is the irony of it all.
Right. But that goes back to, again, what we was talking about. When I feel like when you are biracial, you're immediately, if you're half black, you immediately have to go. You're put on the black side, so
Right.
you can't like anything. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
At least that's how I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, when I was in high school, I always dealt with this with the black guys. Like, oh, you're Puerto Rican?
Yeah.
Well, I'm black. And you're not black.
Yeah, you ain't black.
You're not black.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
Why would I lie?
Well, you guys had the light skin thing, so you know what I mean. Like,
but they just automatically, like, people would not believe I was black.
But you had the thing is they're probably looking at you like you had the option to not be black. So they probably were
But
like,
see, it's for them to say that is because they've never been around white people.
but they're probably thinking that you would opt out of being black. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
They won't let you though.
You had the option.
no, what I
They
mean
won't
is
let you.
They won't let you. It's like Trevor Noah does that joke about where he went to go open the bank account. You ever hear that one?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, and he talks about like
Right.
how there's his first time coming from South Africa. He doesn't understand the culture here, so he's looking at the boxes where you check off race, and he's looking at the races, and he's mixed race. He's half white, half black. So he's like, well, which one do I check off? I don't know. So he's like rationalizing it out. He's like,
Right.
well, I've always wanted to be a black guy. So maybe I'll check the black box.
That is true.
Yeah,
I was
right.
asked in 1995, what race am I? And it said African American. I'm not African American.
Right.
I'm part African.
Right.
But I don't
You
know
don't-
what
you're not
to write. I'm not
African-American.
Pacific Islander. I'm not Caucasian. Like,
Right.
what do I put down? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know,
You check the other box.
But the joke goes that he's asking the clerk, like, I don't know which one to fill in. I think I'm just going to check black. And she was like, yeah, they usually most do. And then he's like, nah, you know what? I'm going to check white. And then she like freaks out. She's like, wait, whoa, you can't do
And we've talked about
because he
that.
thought about
He was-
like, well, white people I've heard that white people get better treatment, so I'm just going to check the white box.
You said the white box was enticing you.
Yeah.
we have talked about that. Like, I have always said the one drop rule is such a stupid thing.
Yeah, it is.
There's no such thing as the one drop rule. That was created to basically dissuade, you know, women from choosing black men.
Right,
That's
exactly.
What it was, you know what I mean?
And the fact that black people hold on to that now is some sort of like
Because it don't
stamp
work,
of approval.
It don't work with Asian men.
No.
You can have one drop of Asian blood and be Asian.
Right.
You know.
That's Noe.
You know. I've always disputed that. I was like, no, that was created to kind of cause division. You know what I mean? And
Right.
keep you away.
Right,
you know?
right. It was a deterrent.
It was a deterrent.
It was a deterrent for,
and that's what it is.
Right.
You know what I mean?
but now it's turned like with because people will use that to say, well, Meghan Markle, she's one of us. She's
Right.
a black woman. We're prideful in it.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right.
Black woman in the royal family.
Right.
Yeah, and it's
like-
crazy. Like
I think people hold on.
Really?
I didn't even know she was black until they said it.
Right.
But really, I didn't care.
And
Because
who-
it doesn't
that's the
matter.
thing. Who cares?
But that's the thing.
Why-
But
why
we
making-
have that perspective
Yeah.
because we've always lived outside of those of those like entrapments.
That's
because
dude. I hate when you look on Instagram. You got people. Oh, I love my black men. Like it's all about black men. You know
Right,
what I mean? Like
right.
nothing but black men. And I'm
Right.
like,
what
then
about
you
me?
jokingly,
Right.
jokingly,
Right.
Yeah.
It's
well,
like,
how about me?
Yeah, where do I
And then
fit in that?
Yeah, because it's like, or when people talk about dating white or dating black when they're
Right.
black, and it's like, okay, but how about in between? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
and that's the thing. It's like, again, why is this important?
it should be about your character,
Right.
And that's the bottom line.
And people.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Look,
nowhere near as-
Mike just wrote facts in the chat because he feels us on that. He's another light skinned brother.
Mike.
Mike Walker, drummer.
Oh, okay. What up, Mike?
What up, Mike?
Yeah, I mean it's definitely different when you grow up not knowing where to identify because then you just realize that there's no need to identify.
Right, and especially when you're in a household where you are seeing the difference between your mom and your dad is pointed out. You see it, but the public is asking you to choose.
Right.
Your parents is your parent.
Right.
Your mom and your dad is your mom and dad. But
Right.
the public is asking you, which side are you on, man?
Dude, I remember
Choose.
at recess, people literally, because people used to do this. I don't know if they did this at y'all schools, or maybe it was like you maybe because you're Asian, but they would literally like split into white and black teams. Like play football or basketball or something. Like they would segregate the teams. Like the kids would do this on their own. Like this isn't something the schools, like the kids would be like, all right, it's white versus blacks. And then they would look at me like, where are you going to play?
Where you playing?
Who you choosing?
Where you
But-
playing, Jamie?
Exactly.
Wait, but it would always be the black kids that would do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like it's not the white kids.
Because
White
the-
kids be too.
You're afraid to.
Because the black kids wouldn't win.
Right.
Nah, but it was always like
Right.
that mentality. Like
I think of course, like there's more mixed people than there's ever been before, and it's more accepted now than before, right? But I think you have to be willing to have uncomfortable conversation to kind of air this out. Like, why do you feel the way you do?
Yeah.
Tell me. Like, if you don't like it, tell me why you don't feel the way you do.
Right.
Right.
And if it's
But a lot of people are uncomfortable talking.
well, because that goes back to what I was saying. You're taught race, politics, religion. Stay away from those things. That makes people uncomfortable. And I feel the opposite. I feel you should have those conversations. You should. Why? We're all human beings. We share this planet. There's no difference. And by the way, just to be clear, race is an invented term. There's no such thing as race.
Right.
There's the human race, but there's no such thing as an individual race, black or white. There's no such thing.
Right.
There's variation in our features and things like that. Just like there are variations in the dog species or the horse species. There
Exactly.
are variations.
There's variations
Yeah.
because of genetic coding and
Right.
everything.
And if you married a woman of another race, do you create a new race?
Right. Well, look at my kids.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And my kids.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So
And my kids.
Right.
Exactly. So no.
But people are quick to, like, even people from the islands or Puerto Ricans, like we grew up with, and it's like they have so much pride in the fact that they're like 100% Puerto Rican, which makes
I just gotta laugh at
absolutely
that.
no,
Right. No such thing.
sense at
until they
all.
go to Spain. Until
Right,
they go to Spain
right.
and realize, you have to, like for me, I'm James Garcia. But
You're 100% Trinidadian.
well, I'm Trinidadian, but I feel like my name is James Garcia, but I am not Latino. Are there Latino ancestry? Yes. And obviously the name is from Spain, but I don't cling towards that. But some people, they want to be that thing so much.
Right.
Because I don't know why. You go to the Dominican Republic, you see it.
Right.
Well, that in Dominican Republic, that's instilled in them.
Right. I mean,
Like literally
Yeah,
in
true.
their.
Yeah,
in
we
their
watched that
school.
documentary. Who did that documentary about all of the islands and the slavery in like Brazil and stuff like
it
that?
was Henry Louis Gates. It was
Yeah,
called
Henry
Black
Louis
in America series. A
Right.
wonderful series, by the way. If
Yeah.
you didn't have a chance to check that out.
Awesome series, but one of the things that he pointed out was the fact that like
Yeah.
people in like DR and Puerto Rico and they don't identify as black at all, even though
right.
most of their genetic history is from Africa.
Right,
You know
right.
what
Yeah.
I mean?
Paul
But-
Mooney talks about that.
Right.
Does he?
Yeah, he makes a joke.
They don't
about
want to. They don't want to identify. I think there's this thing where obviously blacks have been deemed to be inferior, so nobody wants to be attached to that.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where that comes from. Where you go to these countries and these brothers are, most of them, darker skin, African features, and they're telling you they're Spanish, and you're like, okay, man.
I mean, like
Sure.
our friend who, we used to be in the band with, Pete. His grandmom was a dark-skinned Puerto
Yeah.
Rican,
Yeah.
Very dark.
very dark-skinned.
Right.
And when he brought home a light-skinned African American girl,
Yeah.
she looked at him like,
Yeah.
"Why do you have a black girl?"
Right,
coming to-"
right. Yeah.
And that didn't make any sense to me at all.
Right.
you know?
And ultimately, she's going off of what someone told her. Someone said, "Don't ever do this." You know what I mean? And that's what I was saying. If we had the time to stop and challenge some of the information and the sources we get this from, we would get to the root of this thing. We would figure this out. We'd say, how do you know that this one group of people is better than this? Tell me. Explain that to me. Well, my granddaddy said because he said, and it would you would go nowhere, and you would immediately find out you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
What? Because the video's frozen.
The video has been frozen, but the audio is going, and I'm switching it between your still shots. It's very
Yeah,
pretty.
I mean that's fine with me.
That's cool.
I don't know. Do y'all want to keep going with this feed?
Yeah, that's fine.
Everyone's still viewing, right?
How's everyone feeling out there? It sucks that they can't see what's going on.
Well, he can still switch between the still frames.
Who's talking right now? Moon.
Yeah, Moon and Jake are talking right now, and now it's me and James. Yep, see, there
Yep.
you go. And now we're showing something from the internet.
You
It's
guys
gonna be- look, what's it going to be? The Bernie Sanders thing you had up?
Music's just wiggly air. Actually, speaking of that, oh, too bad they can't see it. I have a wonderful Facebook page. It's called Mr. Build Right. If it would load, I guess we're having a little freak out with all the inputs here.
Was it the CPU that caused that? or-
CPU's at 34% makes me think it had a little.
Like
Yeah.
Wirecast.
Yeah, I think Wirecast is just having a little hiccup with the visuals, but W radio station.
Okay, but now we're on a white screen. So.
Yeah, well, it's back to you.
There we go. All right.
It could be me. Maybe it's me. Oh, look, there's frozen quarters.
Look,
I'm going to take
I
that
saw the
right off.
Mr. Bill Wright came up when you just put it.
There it is.
There you go.
There it is.
There it is.
That's the build, right?
That was one of our first jobs, actually. That background pics is one of the first jobs that my dad and I did.
Oh, it's working now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just gotta let it go, right? We'll just go with it.
Let's just go with it.
Yeah.
Beautiful work.
Sorry, guys. My photos are not the best because a few years ago I was the last man to have a flip phone. You know what I mean? There he is.
Look,
There's my
that's
dad.
Augustine Garcia right
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
The matriarch. I mean, patriarch.
Right.
They want to turn it into a matriarchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do awesome work, man. So if anybody needs
That's actually
what's
awesome.
Yeah, that
My
was
style all day.
Yeah, that was a good one, man. That was an exciting project.
When I get my house, I want you to do that.
Stan said we're rolling live again. Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you, Stan.
Thank you, Stan.
Thanks,
Hey, congratulations on Odell Beckham going to the Browns. By the way, Nana and Stan Golden.
Yeah, how you feel about that,
are
Stan?
Friends.
How you feel about Odell Beckham leaving your precious Giants? Look, we
Yeah.
still don't have live video though, right? Yeah. Okay.
But it's all good.
It's all good.
You know,
Live internet video. Ooh, ah.
That's weird.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate the love on Mr. Bill Wright.
Yeah, man.
It's my thing, and I hope to keep it growing, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Build Right.
Who
Moan
designed
has
such
worked with me
logo?
before. Moan did that design right there.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, we keep it simple. We love what we do.
I don't know if I call that work though. We, just
Hey, man. It was free 99.
we hang out, talk shit all day.
Yeah.
Still blank screen.
I see some of my friends on here watching. Thanks, guys.
Did you tell them you were gonna be on?
There we
Yeah.
go.
I don't see my wife on here watching, though.
She's probably scared you're gonna say something embarrassing.
No, I would never. Yep.
Yeah, we're back.
And we're back.
Drinking beer. Simone Chang.
Drinking beer.
Stan said, I feel like
Feel like bleep.
cursing out Odell Beckham.
Stan says he feels like mad emoji face.
Okay, so we're back. Let's get back into it. So, where do we stop?
Where were we at? We were talking about a lot of racial
Race.
things.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. All right, Moan, we got a question for you.
Okay.
You're the only pure blood.
Pure blood.
I don't know if you would call me pure blood.
Is there a such thing?
Is there such a thing?
I don't think so.
No?
But you have a unique experience.
You have a unique experience.
Coming here from a third world country,
Right.
coming here from a different culture, and growing up around a multicultural environment. First, you grew up in South Philly, which
Right.
The hood.
The hood.
I was,
Talk about your
hopscotching
experience.
and playing
He
double
used
dutch
to
with
say,
the girl.
I was chased by black guys.
Yo, I really was. I used to,
But the thing was, you never internalized that.
never.
And made it a thing, and you know that there's a huge racial element in the Asian community, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
I say it all the time, jokingly. Sorry, Asians, but we
Right.
we always when they talk about like a black person, they always say like I come out,
Yeah.
saying black, but
Right. Yeah.
it's just a physical thing. It sounds like it's racist, but
Dude, Puerto Ricans do the same thing.
Right. And that's
yeah,
what
the same
Your
thing. You
family
know that?
call me Chino,
Right,
you know,
right.
Chinese, but I'm
Right.
not Chinese.
Right.
But don't you think that's what, like, technology and magazines, movies have done? They've painted such a picture that people grab a hold to those things and stick with it, and they never change. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, okay, I've seen Asian programming, like the news shows, and the features on them are very
pale.
yes.
Pale skin. I mean,
Right.
it happens all over. Even in,
India.
I've seen Indian commercials.
Yeah, the stars are.
Oh, we
That-
talked about the
right.
Bollywood shows you used to
Yeah,
watch as a
as a
kid.
kid, you're
always-
Amita Bachchan and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff.
They're always lighter with the
Yeah.
lighter eyes. Same
Right.
thing in
That's considered
Asian
to be
culture.
right.
Yeah, you know what's funny? He was telling me today that like when they would watch that as kids, that
Right.
his Indian cousins just automatically knew that the whoever the lead was their boyfriend, but Liz was never
Yeah, she's
included.
not included in that.
She doesn't even have a chance.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really interesting to see people, like I said, like and the sad thing is that what you're introduced to at around 10, 11 kind of sticks with you for a long time. If you don't correct that, if you don't try and get information, it's gonna stay with you for a long time. And unfortunately for some people forever.
Yeah, they don't grow out of it. They don't.
Right.
They don't challenge.
Right. To find out why. Yeah.
That had to be. Is BX Boy Wonder Nana?
That's not
Okay. He was talking trash on YouTube.
with your corny name.
Yeah, BX Boy Wonder. You live in Williamstown, New Jersey, bruh.
That's his video game name.
He's still holding on to that. I'm from New York. So what?
You live in Williamstown.
Yeah.
I don't go around telling people I'm from Philly.
Or Cambodia.
I was never in Cambodia though.
That's true. You've never.
I was
See, now he admits it. When I said he was Taiwanese, he gets mad. Now he's
Taiwanese. That's not even the right
totally different
part of
sorry.
the world.
See, I'm being racist.
No, but
Thailandian.
I'm offended.
Thailandian.
but
He's
but
Italian.
but it's that's something that people don't really talk about a lot. Is like
Right.
the racial stuff in other cultures. It's like
Right.
in this country
It's
especially,
there.
it's always considered a black and white thing, right?
Right. Well, America's, we're the bigger one. And
Right.
Pretty much.
And slavery was such a huge thing, and that's why, of course, I mean, it's understandable that,
Right.
all of that stems from that being a thing,
Right.
but I know we've seen it in our family. I mean, our grandmom has said things that are like considered kind of touchy a little bit, and we, like you said,
You mean abuela?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's straight from Puerto Rico,
Well,
but
if you don't want to, but give an example. So people understand.
No, I don't care. So like, just it's the idea that like, because Jake's kids have blonde hair and blue eyes, they're more attractive than mine, who have darker hair and darker skin.
Right,
Because my wife is darker. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it's
Okay.
like that's it's just like it's like an innate thing where they feel like that equals beauty more. You know what I mean?
I remember
Right.
your mom mentioning your abuela saying, Jakey's kids are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Right.
They look so. so
And they are though. They are.
Yeah, they are.
But she's talking
But
about
Right.
features.
your mom was like, "What about?
Yeah.
what about Lisi?"
Oh yeah, them too.
Oh, yeah.
them too. Get out of here.
And
Get out of here,
you-
nappy.
And you other guy.
I mean-
this handy black man t-shirt.
I mean, that goes back to what I was talking about in the Asian culture too.
Dude.
It's all,
Yeah.
like in the movies, it's
Dude, I
all
always-
the fair skin.
I always talk about that scene from what was that show, Fresh Off the Boat, that had me dying because it's like it was so true, and no one picked up on like the
It's
racial
funny 'cause
element.
it's true.
Yeah, because they went to I think they went to a beach somewhere or a pool, and the grandmom in the wheelchair. It's
Yeah,
like if you
yeah.
don't know this show, Fresh Off the Boat was a show that was based around an Asian American family.
Funny show.
Their children were the first born here, but the parents were immigrants,
Right.
and they're a Chinese or they were Taiwanese, right? I think they were from Taiwan.
You sure?
I don't
No, I
remember.
thought they were Chinese.
No, they were definitely not Vietnamese.
I've seen it once, so
But the premise of this joke was because it's the child is telling the story of his life growing up as a young Chinese boy trying to figure out how to be in America.
Right.
He was in love with hip hop or whatever. But the one story was they were at a pool and the grandmom is sitting in her wheelchair, all covered. You know how Asian people
Right,
be
right.
all covered up, and the white women were out there sunbathing.
Sunbathing, yeah.
And she, but look, but she was like, she says it in Mandarin or whatever she was speaking. When, you know, there was subtitles, but she was like, "Look at them devaluing themselves," and it's like, they really believe that,
and it's a thing.
Yeah.
It really is
Right,
a thing.
right.
My mom, she don't like being in the sun.
Right.
If she's in the
Yeah.
sun, she has a hat. Or
they
an
do
umbrella.
they do everything they can to stay as light as possible.
Right.
She makes fun of me because how dark I get.
Right.
Like, you know.
But isn't that what racial propaganda has done though? It
Absolutely.
has made people feel like, even though they have they couldn't explain it. They just know that don't be that thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Dude, when we were in Trinidad, I'm walking around. We were walking in San Fernando, and I'm looking at all the beauty stores and everything, and the
Right.
signs above the stores, and I'm like, where are all these people? I have not seen one person.
Yeah. It's
The
true.
pictures are like all of these like European looking people that
Right.
don't live
And
there.
that's the standard.
Yeah.
They set a standard of beauty.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to achieve. Because one thing people don't understand is the beauty industry world, they market skin bleaching cream around
Right.
the world like it's lotion.
Right.
You know, here it's
saw that-
taboo.
I saw that
And there's a
commercial.
lot of big name companies that if you name them, people would instantly recognize them. Those companies are marketing a certain product to the rest of the world, and the rest of the world buys that up because they do not want to have darker features.
Right.
Whatever it's not considered attractive. You know.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
That's crazy.
But it's
Right. But real quick, I want to bring this point up. I think how these beauty ideals or the standards or whatever it's introduced is when like you just said, your grandmother saying, "Oh, his kids are beautiful." Now all that needs to happen right then and there is your kids to hear her saying that their cousins are beautiful, and she not paying that same compliment towards them.
Right.
And nothing needs to happen after that, because instantly they'll realize, wait a second, so they're beautiful and I'm not.
Right.
And that's all that needs to happen. So all of a sudden, insecurity.
Well, that's what happens on a mass level when women see that only certain types, especially black women, when they see that only certain types of women are considered beautiful. When you look at all the magazines and
Right.
and the most 100 sexiest or whatever those stupid lists that they put together, it's always a certain type of woman that's in.
That's considered, yeah.
So that's done to people
Until-
on a mass level.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right.
until you get to the point where it's fat poems.
Well, that's something. That's something totally.
But you know what though? Like, you know, even if they did hear Jamie's in their life to, you know,
Exactly.
No, he is, and he's doing a great job. But I'm saying, I still think it affects you in a certain way. Like you feel less than. You're like, wait, so they're beautiful, but I'm not. Then all of a sudden, she starts questioning her curly hair,
Yeah.
or that she has.
But see, that's
You know.
but that's good because you can't guard your kids from everything.
Right.
What,
Yeah, I mean,
because he's there to arrest it and say, well, hold on, no. You know what I
Right.
mean? You could go back but if your parents don't know,
Right.
they're not gonna tell you. That insecurity is gonna stick with you.
It sticks with you.
And you got to pay attention. Like you can, a lot of parents they don't do any. Like they'll see these things happening
don't
with
say
their
anything.
kids, and they just. stay
Are we
quiet.
willing? Now that we're all around the same age, so are we willing now that if we hear that, to correct that person, whether it means embarrassing them or not, to say, hey, well, why would you say that to them? Why would you say one kid is beautiful and not the other one?
I mean, my mom did, but
Yeah.
so I mean, yeah,
if
but
it
all
needs to be
depends.
corrected.
Like sometimes it's like. It depends on who it is, because sometimes there's no point.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if it's worth correcting, then
Right.
yeah. But if it's not,
Or maybe not correct them, but say, no, they're all beautiful. Everybody here is beautiful, guys, and let that person feel uncomfortable for pointing that out. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like you're not gonna give one kid something like a present, and then the other kids standing there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
wrong.
yeah.
You have to say
Yeah.
something to say, well, why would you do that?
yeah. But I think every situation is different too.
Of
You know what I
course,
mean?
of course.
might be a little cynical, you know, but I like making people feel uncomfortable sometimes.
You like making people feel uncomfortable a lot.
But I think you do have to have those conversations. Like
Yeah,
you do have
definitely.
to. Like we in our group of family, we have lighter skin, darker skin. We have mixed. We have pretty much everybody in our family is mixed. But I don't want my nieces to feel any different than the way I treat my daughter or my sisters if they do have children. I don't want them, whoever they marry, I don't ever want them to feel that I'm preferring one over the next.
Right.
Right.
The same love comes equally.
Right.
And if any one of them in that room says, I'm better because of this, I will arrest it and say, hold on, no.
Workers when they're paying lower wages,
Right.
when they don't have to worry about taxes, you know what I mean, and you're involved in all of those systems. You got to worry about all of that because you're doing things by the book. You know what I mean?
Right, and that's what it is. I think a lot of people just don't understand how that works.
Right.
What I realize is human beings are naturally selfish.
Right.
So we are going to, all of us, we're going to look out for our best interests, and that's just what it is. And I have learned, I put a value in my work, and I can present that to someone. If they don't see it, they don't see it. But I
Right.
can't beg you,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? And I've always said this: if you want to regulate illegal immigration, or you want to regulate that, you have to go after the businesses, because these people aren't. Now, aside from them, quote unquote, taking jobs, which I don't want to say that so much because I don't want to be like, that, you know, I wanna be like that. But I want to say those people aren't being treated right.
Right.
What they're doing is they're working hard, but they're getting very little of that pie.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But they're also, by doing that, by giving them that opportunity that they give them, you incentivize
Of course.
more people to do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Why would you not take that opportunity?
Right.
You know what I mean? You could do. I mean, listen, the trade industry and the service industry is riddled with this.
Mm-hmm.
All you would have to do if you wanted to fix this problem, you would have to go after the big businesses,
Right.
and a lot of people would go out of business because that's what they do.
And I think that's what they're scared of.
Right.
I said it to you guys before. Like, if they really
Restaurants.
wanted to crack down, go to these factories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
restaurants,
guarantee
factories,
you
and everybody uses them.
they'll find half of their employees.
Listen,
are
the
illegals.
CEO has to make this much money, and it doesn't matter. It's cost cutting.
Right.
That's what it is.
They got numbers to meet,
Right.
quotas to meet, and that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
I mean, I know roofing contractors that they're living large,
Right.
but the workers are risking their life 40 feet up on a, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If one of them falls from there, what happens?
It's
Take them
on
to
them.
hospital? It's on
It's
you.
on them. Yeah.
And rightfully so. Another aspect of that is, again, most Americans, the trades are not valued.
Right.
So who wants to be on a roof doing roofing, or who wants to be landscaping when I could be in a cushy office?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then again, too, if you didn't go to college, you're looked as lesser than.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you hear all the politicians say it. You know.
Somehow there's something beneath you if you don't go to. You're beneath.
Yeah, you're
you know
beneath,
what I mean? Yeah.
What's your what you do?
Well, I think we can leave it there. You know, that was some
We could
good.
go on.
We
and
could,
on and
yeah, we
on.
could go on forever. We're at 2 hours now. You said, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming,
Hey,
man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Man.
Glad to have you on
I
here.
appreciate it.
Listen,
It's good to share with my brothers.
if you guys can still hear us and you want to support the business, it's Mr. Build Right, Fine Remodeling,
Yeah.
and you can check that out on Facebook and hit them up, get some quotes. They do amazing work. They've done work here at our office, at our studio, and we swear by them.
Right.
Also, if you want to support the podcast, if you want to support the group, you can find us at jatan.com. Support the podcast at patreon.com/YoungLionTV or patreon.com/Jatan. Either way, all of that you give us, it goes towards making the broadcast better so we don't have these issues, because we're dealing with issues right now. We want to not deal with issues anymore, and we cannot deal with issues once we get some better stuff.
Yeah.
And you guys will help all of that. We always have people talking about, how can we support you beyond buying the music? We buy the music, but we want to keep supporting you guys, so go to the Patreon and do it that way, because it helps out a lot. Everything is self-funded here. We've been working independently for 15 years now, and going strong. And thank you guys. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
God bless. Have a great night.
Yeah. Thank you guys for tuning in.
We're out of here.
Young lion, go live, yeah. Young lion, you rich, yeah. This kingdom has room.